Hello everybody and welcome back to the channel. Every day from our AI agency we get around 5 to 10 questions if A, an AI idea is feasible technically, and even B, if it's a potential business idea for 2025. So today we bring you behind the scenes quickly in a discussion where we delve deeper into 3 of the potential business ideas we could be implementing in 2025. You, your business or your AI agency could also be copying and implementing in your local domain and in your local context. I'm joined today by the AI engineering magician, only one of them. Usually we have a wizard with us today. João, how's it going?
It's quite good. Normally it's just Bene. Right now you can call me João because the other João is not here, but that's completely okay. Again, since the other João is not here, I'm wearing all the spells on my shirt to see if I'm powered up a bit. I'm great for us to start this discussion on these business ideas. Do you want to start presenting the first idea?
Yeah, maybe just for the audience as well. I mean, usually we shoot these videos more in a podcast format, but we thought since original João is stuck in traffic, we just go ahead with a bit of an improv episode. But still, again, the goal was to really be delving deeper a bit into a few of the notions that just happened in AI this week. And one particularly important one certainly is the release of ChatGPT-4o, the image capabilities, which I've tested fairly in depth yesterday. In the evening, I was just literally prompt engineering pretty much the whole evening. And this is one of the core ideas, especially if you're building an AI in 2025, that you can now be leveraging. And just for context, if you haven't yet tested the new image capabilities, it's pretty much just integrated into the regular 4o capabilities. You can just pretty much just prompt it in a sense, create me an ad or create me a professional photo shoot set up, for example, for a particular product. And I will put also the links in the description how you can do that as well, maybe in more detail, but just on a high level to explain it. If you haven't tested it, it's usually a product that you would like to generate a creative on, followed by a prompt. João, have you tested that quickly or not yet?
Not yet, because initially the ChatGPT wanted to have a free tier of this product, and the subscription I have still doesn't have this for all capabilities, so I haven't had the opportunity. We did do a quick test between Google also released their image generation model, but it's not good. It's not as
it's maybe just really based on this, basically why it's not good. Like that was the general problem since 2023 when we also started to be tinkling around with image models, that the text on the product was never really, let's say, as sophisticated and as detailed as it should be. You can think about a brand, for example, that would like to have a cosmetics product or any other product. It should ideally have the proper logo displayed and the proper text displayed. And so far with diffusion models, that wasn't a possible scenario, and it was always a bit skewed. The text was not readable, and maybe even worse, it was never really a text in the first place. So ChatGPT-4o really solved that, I think, in this particular week's release, which opens a gateway of business ideas and business use cases. I think the time for professional product photographer to be not used anymore is probably between 12 to 40 months away. João, what do you believe? Is that actually something that's really happening, that businesses will need to replace their rather expensive sometimes product photographers, or we're still too far ahead of that?
With the roadmap, it's not. I don't think we are far, but these things, they take time to implement. So, and again, as we spoke before on the last episode, this is the year. Why is this the year? Because this is the year for you to start implementing ideas to have a competitive advantage from other companies. So if you want to have a competitive advantage, you should start to explore this, because these things, they're kind of starting to get ready, but you need to get ready. And for you to get ready, you need to start using it. And right now, I think it's the moment to use.
I think it's the more you use it, the better you become. So if you're an agency founder, if you're interested in building an AI SaaS product, I think the more you use just these different services, just the better it becomes. From a business perspective, you can be offering, for example, literally product photo shooting services using AI, especially if you have a catalog of prompts ready. Something I've learned just yesterday, playing it around with it a little bit, was, you need to prompt. And the better the prompts are, really the more sophisticated the output is. If you have a prompt catalog from, let's say, 100, 200 or 500 prompts, and you can just basically be activating them once a client comes into your door, and you can just basically execute on the notion of activating these prompts and creating these product photos, basically. It might sound a bit too simple sometimes, because actually getting the exact same output over and over and over again is fairly difficult. So for that, you need a pretty highly sophisticated prompt catalog, I would say. But it's certainly one of the opportunities that if you're just getting started with AI in 2025, that is fairly easy now. You can be adopting a bit of prompt engineering, and you can use, again, the image capabilities of ChatGPT-4o, and particularly tailored for Switzerland, for example, as well, with Swiss products or Swiss way of photo shooting, basically. And you can pretty much just maybe offer this service as opposed to a product photographer. Something we have done with Formal Frame, for example, as well over the years, is pretty much that. I mean, we offered a headshot creator similar to a physical photographer, but based on AI. That was possible with Stable Diffusion initially, and now with the Flux models. And now the gateway of product photography opens from zero. So that's certainly something that I would be looking into building if I just get started with AI in 2020.
Do you know the cost? Is the cost the same for image or text generation?
The cost for API or the cost for... I haven't actually checked on the API. That's actually a good point. Maybe I should mention that as well. So I just used the regular front end, the regular app ChatGPT, but I haven't used it on the API. It's certainly something to be looking into, especially if you need to price it accordingly. The API costs are mattering a lot. But maybe we can put it on the video here. I actually haven't looked into that yet. But that's certainly a point on the variable cost. Maybe before we move on the image capabilities, I think it's certainly also a point in time where a lot of the professionals are shifting. Again, I think this just showcases that so far we mostly were able to generate human images with headshots, with maybe models for social media. And now maybe in 2025, this is the year for AI, and maybe this is also the year for product photography ready artificial intelligence solutions. And you might be tailoring that to a particular niche, or you might be able to tailor it to a particular industry, to a particular country, maybe even get featured on the news, and then you have a viable SaaS product just to get started. So that's the first business idea in 2025 that I would be looking to maybe just getting started and having some traction on your website.
Just before getting to the second solution, you were going to ask about Gemini, because I mentioned it.
Oh, yeah, that's true. Talk about Gemini quickly.
About the Gemini was 2.5 was released this week. It's just a quick update. And based on the testing I've been doing and the feedback, the big difference, and this has been a betting of Google, is the context length. So most of the Gemini models had 1 million token context window. Most of models had 30, and then they increased to 128 and then 200. Most of the models are on 200, but with Gemini you have around 1 million tokens or 2 million tokens as maximal input on the context window. The big difference for Gemini 2.5 is the effective context. What does that mean? After normally the models with around 200, after 30 to 40,000 tokens, it starts to hallucinate, and it starts to lose track of the information in the context. Even though it can handle more, it doesn't handle as effectively. With Gemini 2.5, even with higher context, and this again has been a betting of Google, it can keep a really good accuracy and track even with big and massive context windows. The results take with a grain of salt, because it was posted by Google, but it has been backed by tests and feedback from people. On the context window, for instance, for GPT 4.5 with 128,000 tokens, it has around 48% effectiveness. Google has 91. And with 1 million tokens, it has around 80%. I think it's a big thing to mention, because this will improve. You could manage and handle larger documents and large chunks of information at once.
Maybe from just a business, let's say, opportunity standpoint, like where would, for example, this model shine better than the ones before that were available?
For instance, analyzing business proposals. Normally business proposals, they can be 100, 200, 300 pages long. And you can just put the whole business proposal on this with this context window, and it would shine.
I mean, that's maybe a really interesting point also for the audience, that again, the models are getting better over time. So if you will be anticipating a model having these new capabilities, for example, now a larger context window, it will enable a lot more use cases. So I think it's literally this agility to have in also the business opportunity mindset and product ideation is really, really great. On our decision matrix, usually when we run such an audit, we have this model availability 24 months or 12 months, and maybe businesses can be preparing to be implementing certain solutions, given the fact that now these models are coming out. Maybe for the next basically business idea in AI, especially in 2025, is the notion on testing. Something that I think is probably one of the more overlooked areas, usually in software engineering as well. Quality assurance and just the testing is usually put at the very end of a product launch and a product release. Probably it's no different in AI. So the second idea, especially in 2025, if you just get started, it might be even an advantage for you if you haven't really fully developed these solutions end to end, is maybe testing, AI testing as a service, or you even be developing a testing suite for particular niche use cases. What do I mean by that in short? Usually, most of the companies, most of the agencies, they're first engineering the product, and then there is some sort of phase where they are testing it, usually internally. Sometimes they have something called red teaming externally. And this particular solution would come in more on the internal testing as well, but it can also very much happen as an external testing service, because the company itself doesn't employ the QAs. They don't want to spend money on a QA that is fixed in the project, or simply that they don't have the knowledge or the resources in the first place. Benny, what's kind of maybe just some very, very low-hanging fruits in the testing world? What's really missing maybe, and where such a service could come in to really be solving on that pain?
I would say the testing with AI is kind of mandatory, because every answer is different. You can't predict the answer. It's completely different from the older situations you had, where it was fixed answer and kind of easy to test because it was fixed result. Right now, you don't have a fixed result. The test again. So testing is important on every business and on every business. So it's a mandatory thing, and it's going to grow bigger and bigger with AI. Because companies don't want those news happening. Let's say my chatbot is talking nice things about the competitor. We don't want the chat to talk about our competitor. Or our solution generated a document that contains some profanity words. We don't want that. Or the chat is not saying wrong knowledge from our business. We don't want that. So I just pointed 3 topics that are relevant for testing. So you have guardrails, you have persona, and you have the knowledge tests, I would say. So for the guardrails and persona, it's fairly easy to generate and doesn't require much effort. But for knowledge, that one, it requires knowledge, and you should start that from an early stage from the projects, because normally developers don't have business knowledge. Of course, you can have a common ground, but still, those test cases, of course, you have some strategies on the best way to write those test cases, but a lot of these needs to be answered manually. Of course, you can also use AI to generate test cases, but still you need validation, human validation, to see if that makes sense. And on this knowledge aspect, this one is the biggest and the bigger pain that you would face.
I think it's really going also in the sense of how much money are you able to save with such a solution, right? So if you have a full-time tester in any given team, could be in Switzerland, could be in the US, could be in the UK, Germany. Of course, they have different salaries, but at the end of the day, your SaaS comes in to be augmenting these testers, or maybe to even be replacing them through automatic testing, and really be helping the AI engineering team out. And that's probably why it's such a low-hanging fruit. A lot of the focus is placed on the engineering side. And then once testing arrives, it's just maybe a bit, okay, we have like two to 3 weeks left in the project, and we have to basically just be going live. And we don't have usually much time. So if there's more automated testing initially, maybe with a large catalog of different personas, with knowledge tests that are as automated as possible, this could be truly a game changer for AI engineering teams, maybe to have a testing agent that will be over the weekend running the test cases. You get a report on Monday morning. And I think that's truly one of the core pains in the AI engineering world that could occur in multiple areas in 2025. So it's certainly the second business idea that I would look into. And you don't need to have incredibly niche knowledge aside from maybe building prompts really, really well, leveraging LLMs and getting a simple UI, for example, just to get started over let's say a vibe coding way of developing. Maybe if we transfer to the last, let's say, business idea, business opportunity for 2025, is going a little bit into the testing as well. First, on let's say the voice capabilities, because one big segment in the testing world is also the voice testing sometimes. And you mentioned, Ben, quickly just an idea of maybe applying a voice models to it in a different use case. But generally speaking, you were just saying that these voice models are a bit underutilized. What exactly did you mean by that? And how could we derive maybe a business opportunity from there?
From what I see nowadays, the voice bots are mainly used for call centers. And I think you can create so much more value with that. And you can try to look on different solutions. And one of the use cases that it came up to me, because I did some public speaking workshops. They are nice, but with those workshops, what you feel that you need is practice. And sometimes when you're practicing, you don't get feedback. You don't have someone to evaluate you, to give you feedback for you to improve, because of course with practicing you would improve by yourself, but with feedback and insights you would improve way better. Like this, most of the ideas is personal assistant, but they don't apply to certain cases. This is a case using the voice bot, the voice models to evaluate what you're saying. You can build a solution like that to be more or less almost in real time and to give feedback to the user based on what he's saying. You just need to prepare some prompts, and in this scenario, prompts for public speaking, and give insights on what he's doing wrong, maybe provide information on what he can also do. You can also evaluate the sentiment, if it's too eager, energetic, if it's sad, if it's low. So you can evaluate not only the content of the speech, but also the modulation of the voice. And I think that this is very useful. And later on, to add that we still don't have the video models. We're still getting there. And when we have that, that's another talk, another idea.
Certainly, the business opportunities for 2025 are certainly endless. It's just where do you start? And maybe also on this notion on, let's say, personal tutors, there is a vast array of different niches you can try out. Maybe for a particular domain, it makes more sense. Just thinking, you mentioned public speaking, but it could also be, for example, if you really tailor the solution well to a particular job function, which is from the top of my mind, if you want to become a judge, you probably have to have some public speaking in a courtroom, or become a lawyer, and you need to practice on public speaking for the courtroom. So you could maybe be tailoring even these, let's say, speaking trainers or speaking personal tutors to different job roles. Once again, one is for maybe a presenter, a C-level, one is maybe for a judge, one is maybe for a lawyer. They're all basically job functions that rely heavily on public speaking. And to be honest, the iterations that you maybe are getting through university or through your apprenticeships might not be sufficiently preparing you for the real world. Certainly, there is maybe room for improvements. Maybe just to round up, the business use case here again would be voice-assisted personal tutors for particular job functions. And you can literally market and tailor that. So I think that's the last one. Just to round up the trio for today, just a few of the business ideas. And once again, the idea itself, it's just one notion. And of course, the execution matters a lot more. Maybe I will put some resources as well in the description of the video, how you can be starting. But certainly on this channel, we generally be sharing all the insights that will enable you to build these products, build these services the right way, in a banking grade and secure way, and not necessarily just relying on, let's say, sometimes cheap, sometimes less cheap, no-code and low-code tools. But yeah, that's generally speaking the content anyway of this channel. Yeah, anything left to add from you, Bennett, before we wrap up?
Everyone, I hope you enjoyed the ideas. These are really great ideas to implement. And if you start early, because this is the year, you will have success.
That's a good notion to finish. Thank you, Bennett, for joining. This is the year, as always. For the audience, we do weekly videos, usually more in a podcast setting, where we have an engineering magician and an AI engineering wizard with us. Today, we were a bit in a different context, but we are happy to do it in this way as well. But yeah, see you in the next video. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop a comment. Try to subscribe to the channel if you're curious about more things AI. And yeah, we see you in the next one. Take care.